Hello, you beautiful people. Welcome back to the Long Term Podcast. I'm your host, Advin Villa. Today, we have Hockey Alberta official, business economics student at the University of Alberta, and aspiring politician, Ethan Bayduza. We will discuss officiating sport, life post-depression, and support system. Everyone, welcome. No, I remember was it 2 weeks ago we ran into each other into that hallway?
It was right after I started. So I'd say it was about a month ago.
Yeah.
It was one of my first days.
Yeah, I was walking by. I'm like, this guy looks familiar. Like, I could have sworn I went to middle school with this guy and high school. I'm like, Ethan? Nick, and then
You know what's crazy though? Like, we weren't like we weren't friends. We didn't hang out.
We have never talked.
No, we've never spoken. But you still recognize me somehow.
The facial recognition, man.
I have a recognizable face.
Yeah, dude. Memorable.
Is memorable good or memorable bad?
Memorable good.
Okay. Good.
Yeah, bro. So welcome to the Long Term Podcast. Yeah.
Thank you,
Ethan Bayduza, everyone.
Hello, everyone. How's everyone doing?
Yeah, man. Tell me a little bit about yourself.
About myself. Okay. Well, hello again, everyone. I am an official for Hockey Alberta. That kind of takes up most of my time. I'm also a student at the U of A. I'm in the Alberta School of Business, studying economics and law. I got one more year left there. Woohoo! I'm proud Ukrainian Canadian. Big sports guy, you could say. Love my Oilers, love my Blue Jays. Although the Blue Jays not so much lately. That's kind of my thing. Happy to be here. Thank you very much for having me on.
Yeah, bro. So can you tell me why you are drawn to sports? Because it seems that you are a fanatic, the Oilers, hey? And
you could say
Blue
that.
Jays,
yeah.
And we had off camera, we had talked about how from a very young age, 6 or 7, instead of watching cartoons, you were already tuning into the sports channel.
Totally. And my mom could back me up on this. Like, I would, again, 6, 7 years old, before going to school. Like, it's funny to think that I used to wake up early because that's something that I struggle with a lot now. But I would wake up early to watch SportsCenter, while I'm eating my Cheerios.
But bro, when you're a kid, we don't want to sleep. Right, but then as you grow older, it's like, oh, you need your sleep.
I think the biggest thing I've learned as an adult is how awesome sleep is. But anyways, you asked about the sports.
Yeah.
I don't know. It feels lazy to say my mom made me do it, but that is kind of what happened. Like, when I was growing up, only child, with a single mom, so it was just us, and so I kind of picked up a lot of things from my mom, including sports. And it wasn't just it was my whole family. It was everyone I knew, in those formative years was, it's Edmonton. A lot of people are Oilers fans. And at home, like I said before, I'm still old enough to where I didn't have like an iPad growing up. I was before the TikTok age, which, I know I'm coming off as a boomer right now, but it was TV and we had some video games. But when I was a kid, if I wanted to watch TV, I was watching sports because that's what was on the TV. Right. So, but yeah, like, I would say a vast majority of people in my life, people that I'm close with, a lot of those relationships came from playing sports, watching sports, shared love for sports. So you could say it's been a very big part of my life.
What gravitated you towards sports? I mean, was it the team playing? Was it the just the rooting for the underdogs in it? Was it just you liked looking at the batters, or like was it the performance? What was it? Because when you're 6 or 7, like what are you looking for? Was it just the connections that you felt towards the members of the team? What was it?
I mean, I could go into long, excruciating detail about everything that I enjoy about sports, but
Sure, let's hear it.
I could save everyone a lot of time. By there was this commercial that aired a few years ago. It was a Hockey Canada commercial, and it was a bunch of there were some players, there was some just kind of average Canadians just saying, why hockey, because da 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 da. And then at the end of the commercial, the last person that speaks is this kid. He's like 7 or 8. And he says, hockey's just fun. That's it. That's my answer. I don't remember a time in my life where sports wasn't a part of it. I was a kid. It was fun, right? That's all there was to it, really.
Yeah, it was like a love at first sight type thing.
Yeah.
Where you just became passionate about it.
Yeah. And then, by the time I was old enough, I learned how to skate, and then I got signed up in hockey, and then, started trying other stuff. And eventually I ended up in baseball, which was, a sport unlike hockey that I was kind of decent at. I was a terrible hockey player, so bad. But yeah, it just and it kind of shifted from one thing to another. As I played more sports, I got more enjoyment from watching sports, and then I met people with whom I could talk about sports, and then sports ended up being a job for me that I love. So yeah, it's just it's one of those things. It's really hard for me to say, well, I became a sports fan because da da da. Because yeah, it was one of those things that came so naturally.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. It's great that you have a passion for this, and throughout your entire life, you don't remember a time where sports wasn't a part of it. That's awesome. And then officiating sports.
Yeah.
So can you share some of the biggest challenges you faced as a hockey official?
I would start by saying that it's the job itself is hard. It's a very physically demanding job. It's about 10 times as mentally challenging as it is physically challenging. So I every night, every game that I do is a challenge in its own. And it's there's a lot of stuff that you don't like about the job, right? No one likes to go to work and be yelled at for 3 hours. That's, I could do without that.
Well, there's people from both sides, the players themselves as well, yelling at you, going, "Hey, this isn't right." And then the families of those players are also yelling at you, and they want leniency and they want more punishment for the other side. And it's you have to really stand your ground and trust your instinct, right? Because
totally.
You're getting a lot of hate. I'm sure every single game you have to really stand your ground.
Well, it's funny the amount of times that I've been in a game and I make a decision, I make a call, and I have one bench in my face saying that's not a penalty, and then I have the other bench saying that I should have given more of a penalty. And it's like, okay, well, at least one of you is lying, because both things cannot be true. But you do something like this long enough, and you pick up some things. And for me, one of the biggest things I learned is not to take things personally in hockey and also in life. Once it clicked that, okay, it seems like they're angry at me, but really maybe they're only a little bit angry at me, and it's more, it has more to do with it's a close game, it's an important game. They're frustrated about other things, right? When a coach, starts screaming at me, it's not because they think I'm a bad ref. Sometimes it's because they think I'm a bad ref, but it's not because I'm a terrible person and I failed. And once that clicked in my head, it starts to become water off a duck's back, right? Like, and sorry, the other thing I would say is the screaming and the yelling, is usually an indication that it's a really good game. It's the kind of game that you want to be doing,
like
right?
People go home and they go, wow, that was an intense game. And usually the losing side goes home and goes, oh, okay, it was a good game. It's sure they lost, but it was a close game. I enjoyed myself. Sure, I was a bit angry, but that's part of sports. And then the winning side are cheering, they're celebrating, they're high-fiving each other, and they're just feeling euphoric. And yeah, you're just in the middle of that.
Yeah, no, and we're like, first and foremost, we're fans of hockey, right? We got into reffing because of our passion for the game. And as fans, and anyone who watches sports will back me up on this. Like, there's, obviously you always want to see your team win, but there's good games to watch, and there's games that, just don't quite live up, and you want more of the games that you remember, right? The crazy comebacks, the back and forth struggles. You want those games, because those are the games that people talk about, right?
I know there's been many studies on how people enjoy a certain activity when it's not too easy and it's not too hard. Because when it's too easy, then you're just it's like you're cheating. It doesn't even feel like a game. You're not really improving yourself. When it's too hard, you just give up and you go, okay, this person, I could never be like them. They're too far ahead. There's no point. But when you're with your buddy per se, it's not like it gets competitive, especially when you're at an even playing field, because you guys are constantly competing at each other. And then when it's a team that you guys are, maybe it's slightly at an advantage and maybe not, and you could improve. And then the audience and the players, they're all just honed in, and it's like, oh, they got ahead, and then oh, it's another person. Like then by 1 point, and then another point. It's so much more fulfilling to have those games, and it's your job to ensure that the rules are followed.
Yeah.
And everybody has a good time.
We want the result of the game to be dictated by the team that plays better, right? The team, we want the team that deserves to win. And it's not up to us to determine, which team deserves to win. But yeah, like the last thing that any ref wants is to be the one that decided who wins the game. Right?
And you had mentioned that before accepting that it wasn't personal, did people actually say some personal stuff to you?
Oh, all the time.
Really? Like would
totally.
they comment on like your physical appearance or just like the way you would they get personal? Would they actually dig down deep to actually try and hurt you? Because I know I've heard that in the audience, and I didn't really like think much about it. But then I'm like, wait, this isn't person. This is a living person. Like they just see the ref and it's kind of like they dehumanize the ref, right? Whether it be in hockey and MMA and boxing, and they just like, this fucking stupid ref, or like,
oh, good, we can swear on this podcast. Okay,
yeah,
good.
Yeah. But there's, man, I feel bad. Like some, you guys get abused bad. So what are some?
But and the other thing too is, like I was 13 when I started reffing. So like we're not just talking about people in minor hockey, which is, where I officiate. For a lot of it, we're talking about children.
Developing teenager.
Totally.
Yeah. So just getting bashed by the people that are twice, 3 times your age.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, people with like jobs and
grown men
and
women.
spouses and children are, berating and lashing out at other people's kids. No,
Yeah.
like I like this is what I tell people sometimes is, like I have cousins, like little cousins that play hockey, right? And so when I can, I go to their games and I support, and I I don't go to their games and pick a kid on the other team and like, oh, that number 12, he's a fucking idiot. Fuck that guy. Like,
yeah.
It's ridiculous, but because I don't know what it is when you put on the striped jersey. Yeah, like
You
it
get
is
dehumanized, bro. It's
totally.
like-
And I don't know how you fix that. I don't know if that's a problem you can fix, but it is a problem. And I think if we can admit to ourselves that, man, maybe regardless of how old they are, like I don't think you should yell at anyone. Like some of the stuff that I've heard, I wouldn't say that to anybody. But anyways, we do get dehumanized a little bit.
I'd say the times when people have been really rude to me and like mean to me, I could either let that really get to me and I don't come back again, and I let that be a reason why I shouldn't talk to other people, why I shouldn't live my life, or you could use that to empower you, to teach you a lesson. Now, when did it click for you that, hey, these people's words actually don't have that much power? Like, I won't let it affect me, because it's so much easier said than done. Hey, like to actually,
Yeah.
to actually say, I don't give a fuck what these people say, and actually embody that is so much harder to actually do, to apply, than just say. Now, when did you realize this?
I'm half joking when I say this. I just got desensitized to it at a point.
Exposure?
Yeah. Listen, folks at home, you want to get over people saying mean things to you, just tell them to say more mean things to you. No, that is a joke.
No, I've heard that many times, man, where people that get bullied, and I don't condone bullying. It's terrible. We should
Don't bully
Yeah,
people.
Yeah. But there are a few people that I've heard like bullying made them stronger.
Oh,
And I think,
I'm one of those people.
Yeah.
Totally.
like and for me as well, like the negative experiences, I wasn't bullied per se, but the negative experiences that I've had were the ones, it's kind of that like narrative that you tell yourself, hey, where it's like, oh, this made me weak or it made me stronger. Which one should I pick? Like at many times I'd use that as a way to make me weak, but then I could also make me stronger. And every time I'd use that memory to make me weak, it just pushed me down lower and lower. But anytime I made that make me stronger, I just become even more empowered. I don't know. I certainly can't, like, when I explain that to people, some people don't get it. But does that make sense?
No,
Yeah.
I am picking up what you were putting down.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think
Mhm.
You asked about, when did it kind of click? And I think it was a gradual process, but I think it's, for me, the change in mindset was I purposefully, made a point of choosing my battles, because we have a finite amount of, I don't know what the technical term is, but we have a finite amount of, give a shit that we can expend on really whatever we want, right? And if I spend time and energy on, oh wow, this guy, he said some just heinous things about me, I could do something about that. I don't know, what that would entail, but, or I could brush it off. I could use it as fuel, as motivation. And so I think that's when it kind of clicked that, these people are not really worth my time and my attention.
you're so much worth than what they're saying, because they don't even know you, right? They have an idea of you. Like, sure, when they see you reffing, they call you a name, they comment on an action you're doing, an appearance. They don't actually know you. They just know you for that game. Right? They've never talked to you.
And I might not have made a great first impression.
Yeah. And it's to take that lightly and go, okay, this person, maybe they're having a bad day. Maybe this is the way they talk. It's like, chances are you probably won't be talking to this person. And yeah. How do you handle high pressure situations and maintain fairness during intense games?
That is a very good question, because if I had a checklist of like how to handle high pressure, I think officiating in any sport it's a job you very much learn by doing. Like you get a little bit of training when you first start. They want to make sure that you're basically competent. But going back to things I love about sports is it is absolutely insane the sheer number of possibilities of things that could happen in one game. You don't know what's going to happen. We make predictions, and we put bets on games, and we play fantasy sports, and we say, oh, this guy's going to be the best. We don't know.
Well, that's the beauty of it, hey? Because sure, it's the same game. It's been the same game for literally a century. Hundreds of years. But it's different for every single game, even if it's the same players, the same teams playing. And it's that uncertainty that, when we're gripping our chairs, biting our nails, going, oh, are they going to score? Oh, they blocked it. Yeah. And then boom, again, it's so close. Boom, slap shot. Oh, I got in. And it's that, woo, and the crowd goes wild.
Yeah. Sorry, you ever think about a career in play-by-play?
What's up?
You ever think about doing play-by-play for sports? Because that was... You painted a wonderful word picture there. That was
dude,
enthralling.
Yeah, dude, it's just the energy. See, I'm new to the Oilers. I've kind of just
welcome aboard. Glad to have you.
I've bandwagoned. Like I saw the energy. I saw the hype.
Yeah.
Like I saw that everybody was wearing Oilers, and I'm like, maybe I should just try it out. Went to the watch party, and man, the energy. Like when everybody's stomping on those bleachers, and it's like a concert, but even better because there's no song. It's just people playing, and like the energy of the people yelling and stomping, and the players' facial expressions when they zoom in to the hockey player that just got put in the box, and there's so much in despair, and all the fans are just in doom and gloom, but then they don't end up scoring, even though it's a 4-on-5, and it's all new to me. And like, certainly it's great, like how much passion you have for the sport. But yeah, going back to the high pressure situation,
right?
Yeah, like when it's really intense, I'm sure you're probably really high adrenaline induced.
And I run at 1,000 degrees all the time.
you're sweating. It's like, oh gosh, like I can't miss the puck. I got to make sure that these players are playing fair. Certainly, I'm sure you've witnessed some people that don't.
Some extracurriculars. Some tomfoolery. Yeah, it's hockey. Like it's an emotional game. There's your standard kind of things. Breathing. This past season, I started to pay attention to my breath. Like when my heart rate starts to get up. Just those couple deep inhales, exhales. Oh my God, just does wonders. And like I kind of alluded to, the more you ref, the more you play a sport, the more you, I don't know, what's some other, professions, the more you do anything, right? The more different situations you get exposed to. And then you learn from how you handled it the first time. And part of it is you have to have a bit of an ego, I think, as a ref. And I don't mean, being cocky and
I say trust yourself.
yeah.
And you had mentioned that with every single situation that comes, with every single game, you learn a little thing. You remember the first time you ever reffed a game. You didn't know what to do. You're looking around. You're nervous.
Dude, I needed a map.
Yeah, you need a map. You had planned it out. What am I gonna do? Like when this thing pops up, I'm the person that has to dictate what happens next. And over time, even though it wasn't perfect the first game, you come back to the next, and the next. You look back, you compare your 10th game to the first game, and there's exponential growth. You compare your 100th game reffing, being in a officiating sport, you compare your 100th game to your 10th game, you just notice a massive difference. And I see that with this podcast too. My very first one, it took me 3 hours to do a 10-minute intro because I was just nervous. I was scared. And you look back now, it's been what? Since you were 13, now you're like 21, 22? Yeah, it's been
22.
almost,
Good guess.
it's been a decade.
Yeah. This next season will be my 10th year.
Yeah. And then now you've learned how to implement breath work. Now you've learned that the people that are yelling at you, the people that are putting you down, aren't worthy of your time and energy. You learned all these things. And it's great because you just kept coming back. You could have given up. You could have gone, okay, I don't deserve this. Then you quit. And a lot of people do that. What would you suggest to someone who enjoys hockey, baseball, a fanatic sports fan like you, and they also officiate sports, but they want to quit? What would you say to them?
Well, first I want to say hello to I want to shout out at the fellow refs and umpires that are listening. Man, I would say that, okay, first I want to draw your attention to something because I think this is really interesting. So there's been lots of research done on this, and basically what we figured out with referees and officials of any sport is we have tons of new referees joining every year. Guys that are, just old enough, people that are turning 13, older people, like people of all ages, lots of parents want to sign up when their kid signs up because they want to do that thing together, which is really cool. But what we found is we don't really have a recruitment issue as officials, but of all the people that ref one season, over half of them quit after their first year.
High turnover.
Yeah. But the really interesting thing is if they come back for their second year, with very few exceptions, they're in for life. And I don't know what to do with that stat. But I just think it's really interesting. Anyways, if you are thinking of quitting, first of all, I would say I don't blame you because again, it is a tough job. And it is not for everyone. I think there's a certain kind of personality you have to have. But listen, I have been in situations over the last decade, which is crazy to say that. Like, wow, doesn't feel like I've been doing this for 10 years. Where, it got really tough stretches, tough games, incidents that happen where it's like, Like, man, that never would have happened if I was just working at McDonald's. You know, there was one time where, you know, the season came to an end and I had a really tough end to the year. And, you know, I don't know if I thought about it seriously, but I thought about, you know, do I want to come back next year? But the longer you stay in reffing, the better you get at it, but more importantly, you start to have more doors open to you and more opportunities. And because I stayed with it, you know, my last, you know, 2-3 years, I've had more experiences, more, you know, incredible opportunities than I did the first 7 years of my career. And it's been some of the best experiences of my entire life. And so I would just say, listen, stick with it. Talk about it with your peers. Like we have a great fraternity amongst referees. You know, say, hey, like I'm struggling with this, and you know, there's lots of guys that like you'd be surprised how many of, you know, the really experienced veteran refs are like, yeah, I had this one night where I said that I would never ref again, and now look at me, like I'm still here. Like guys in the NHL, like the best, you know, supposedly the best referees of the world. A lot of them talk about, yeah, I had one night where, you know, a parent slashed my tires, or I was assaulted in the rink, and I quit. They didn't even think about quitting. They quit. They said, I'm done. And like 15 years later, they're reffing in the National Hockey League.
Do refs get paid a lot?
We're pretty well compensated. The thing about reffing is, on a per hour basis, we make really good money. The issue is it's very hard to put in an 8-hour day as a ref or a 40-hour week. That's just not feasible, especially when you start doing higher levels. So it is a really great kind of side income. Like the money I make from reffing is, you know, it helps me pay for my, you know, for my apartment, for my groceries, you know, kind of helping me through school. Nearly impossible to make a career out of it.
Well, it's great that you guys, on an hourly basis, it's better than average. And you had mentioned before that to just hold on, right? And I feel like that extends so much more in life, hey, because Mike Tyson says this thing where without discipline, you're nothing, because at the slightest bit of pain, you'll give up. And that's kind of what you felt and what a lot of refs have felt. And as long as you stick with it, and you truly know if it's just unhealthy for you, you know that deep inside, hey, when it's actually just tearing you down inside, you have to go seek some professional help. But when it's just a bad game, you sleep it off, you come back again, and you have a good narrative as to how you would find solutions for this, doors pop up for you. And you look back and you go, wow, had I quit that one day, I wouldn't have all these opportunities. And I was talking to this girl, actually Ireland Ferguson. Yeah, she was just on the podcast. Yeah, she talked about, I think we talked about like nursing, and she said, oh, she really wanted to quit. She really, at her like some point during her degree to becoming a nurse, and she really wanted to, but then she talked to her friend, or dad was it, and she didn't. And now she's a nurse.
Yeah.
It's just all these things that we feel, we can't give in. We have to give it some thought and reflection. We can't just think irrationally. We have to give ourselves some time to be able to reflect on what we truly want. Now, is this a passion of ours? Is it truly a passion? If so, it's probably not in our best interest to quit, right? And that's sports in your life has been a great passion. And if you had quit reffing, I don't think that would have been in your best interest. And you know that deep down inside. And that's for me as well. This podcast, like running for me, and just a lot of things that I am passionate about. There's been so many days, even this week, where it's like the doubt comes in, the guilt, the shame, the negativity. You enjoy it, but this is part of it. This is the entire.
That's part of the ride, baby.
It's part of the ride. This is the journey. Because we're so perplexed on just the excitement, and we go, oh, when I started that first week, it was so good, and all we romanticize all the good moments, but we forget about the bad. There was bad in those moments, right, where you're doubting yourself, but eventually you learn and you keep going. What kind of training and preparation do you undergo to become a certified official in Alberta?
So like I said before, it's a job that's very much learned by doing. I guess if there's anyone, in your audience who's, like me, a big sports fan, and you've thought about officiating as a potential path, I listen, like I can we drop some of my socials in the description? Man. Like I'm on Instagram, my DMs are open. Just search Ethan Bayduza, you'll find me.
I'll put you on the Instagram. I'll make a collab post with you.
No, so if anyone at all has ever even just thought about it, reach out. And especially hockey, if you're interested in reffing hockey, I can hook you up with the people that you need to talk to. But like the process for getting started is so you register. There's two parts to the initial training. There's the online clinic that you have to do, and then there's your in-person clinic. So the online is very basic, like reffing 101. You go into some of the very basic rules of the game, super entry level positioning stuff. And it just kind of gives you, it gives you kind of what to expect as a ref. And then once you complete that, you do your in-person training. Now for hockey, it's 1 day, it's 8 hours, it's in a classroom. For baseball, it's similar, I believe. I think soccer is 2 days. Kind of a Saturday, Sunday thing. But regardless of the sport, you're going to be sitting in a classroom for about 8 hours. Depending on how old you are, if you're 15 or younger when you sign up, there'll be an on ice session at the clinic. So you bring your skates, you bring your helmet, you bring a whistle, and you kind of work through the positioning, where to stand, when, if the puck's here, you should be here, where to look on the ice. You start working on your face-off technique. And then if you're over 16, you probably won't be doing the on-ice stuff, but there'll be a classroom session. Lots of discussion. You'll be with about 30 other people. It'll be in a school or a hockey rink or a community hall, stuff like that. Again, on a Saturday. So you'll do your classroom session. Again, you might have an on ice, and then you'll write a test. And the test is very simple. It's like 30 multiple choice questions. It's, basically, can you read the rule book that we're giving you? If you get 80% on the test, you're certified for the year. And then that's when you get in touch with your local minor hockey association, and they start giving you games.
Awesome. That's it doesn't seem like a long process, but it is daunting for a lot of people because it is all eyes on you.
Yeah. No, and I remember my first game I ever reffed very vividly. No, it's a really uncomfortable feeling, but if you're reffing your first ever game, the piece of advice, because I've the thing about your first game is you'll have a mentor with you. You'll have someone on the ice with you who is there to guide you, help you out, answer any questions you have. And I've done that for a lot of refs getting started here in Sherwood Park. And the one thing I always tell them is just it is your show. It is your game. You know, because, you know, players and coaches will, you know, not at the younger levels where you're starting out, but, you know, you'll have the odd person who tries to, you know, overrule you and say, no, it should be done like this. And it is your game. You are the boss. You are in charge. So own it, you know, have fun with it. And yeah, like when you first start out, and, you know, any listeners in the Sherwood Park area, you'd be very fortunate because we have one of the best associations in the province. We're one of the biggest associations. So you have, you know, we're talking over 100 other officials that, you know, you can really lean on for support and guidance.
Hell yeah. And you had mentioned that you are the boss. You're the one that dictates if that's a penalty. And earlier you had mentioned that you kind of have to have a little bit of ego. And I think it's not necessarily ego. It's trust. You have to trust your decision-making process. And certainly you're going to make mistakes. But it's from that constant exposure, it's that constant coming back to which over time, the more games that you play, the more reps that you put in, the more experience you're going to get, to the point where when you call a shot, nobody would question it because you already have 100 games in your belt. You already have 1,000 games in your belt, 10,000.
Right.
Now, if somebody there, a parent who's only shown up to 20 games, or a person that's only showed up to like 100 games in their lives and they've never reffed, you just trust yourself more because you're on the ice. You've seen it firsthand. And yeah, I think that's really great. You're a great person to learn from when it comes to officiating sport.
Thank you.
Like you've done it so long, bro. You stuck with it.
I just want to jump in, and I want to be very careful in my language. Ego, or whatever you want to call, you know, belief and confidence in yourself, is very important in our job. Equally as important is humility, because there are, you know, referees who, and you hear stories about this, and it's much less prevalent than people would have you believe, but there are officials who, you know, the word power trip gets thrown around, and I think anyone that's in any kind of position of authority, you have to check yourself a little bit, right? Because you're being entrusted this authority from other people, and if you think you're above those people that give you that authority, they'll never respect you. And as a ref, that's going to make your job a lot harder. For me, the games where I feel like I referee the best and I perform up to the standard that I want to be is when I have respect for the people that I'm working with, the players, the coaches, and I do mean that, working with. I consider everyone on the ice, you know, everyone between the glass is, I'm trying to think of the word. It's not colleagues, but it's, you know, those are the people that I'm working with. I'm not in charge of them. I'm not, you know, talking down to them. These are people that I'm working with to, you know, produce entertainment, really, at the end of the day, is what sports is. You want to establish
you want to cultivate an environment where the players are playing fairly, they're trying their best to the best of their abilities, and you have to punish those that don't follow the rules. Yeah. And at the same time, the audience, the coaches, you're also taking them into account, and you're not being biased. You're staying neutral. And you're trying to establish a foundation that is of humility, and you're just doing your job.
No, and that's exactly it. I am there to do a job, and Nothing more, nothing less.
And yeah, you enjoy that job too. And so it's a win-win.
Fucking love that job.
Yeah. Awesome.
Best job I ever had.
So yeah, bro. After those people calling you all those names and really putting you down, I'm sure like going into the next topic, are they the reason? Are they the reason, man?
Man, what an all-time segue.
Yeah.
That was
I could, bro, honestly, I could see myself like beating myself down because these people who don't know me are just calling me all sorts of names and shit. Like, I'd be like, fuck, I guess I am stupid because I didn't call that guy in, put him in the box, call that penalty. It's like,
I don't think you're stupid.
So can you tell us about your journey through depression and how you managed to overcome it?
Sure. Yeah, I guess there really is no good way to transition smoothly.
Yeah, I was trying, man, but
no, it was a good effort. So yeah, my story with mental illness. So I've had depression twice. The first time was when I was in grade 5. And that was a result of bullying that I had experienced. And it kind of happened over the course of a school year. And at first it was, it was a couple kids, and by the end of the year it was, I was in a class of about 16 students, and it was basically everyone in the class except for, the one really good friend that I had, who was, the person kind of defending me. And it actually got to a point where the teacher that we had was, kind of getting in on the, hey, let's pick on Ethan bandwagon.
the teacher joined in.
Yeah. No, like there was an incident where I asked, I asked to use the washroom during class because I had to go, and the teacher wouldn't let me. And then started, making fun of me, and then the rest of the class joined in on it, and it got to the point where I was almost, wetting my pants in the middle of the class, which I'm sure that would have helped the bullying. But then eventually he did let me go, and when I came back to the classroom, the door was locked, and I wouldn't let me back in the classroom. So yeah, it was a really hard time. And in addition to that, my one friend that I had mentioned told me that he was moving to Calgary. So once I heard that, it was tough, and got depressed, and started losing a lot of the joy that I got from various things in my life. But then an incredible thing happened. The school year ended, and kind of from the last day of school, things kind of started to turn around. When we came back to school in the fall, we were moving up to a middle school from our elementary school. So it was a way bigger school. There was, people to talk to other than just the kids in my class. So the next year was a lot better. And that was the summer that I started playing baseball competitively. That was my first experience on, sort of a quote unquote elite sports team. And it was the best summer ever, because I got to play a game that I loved with, new friends who I enjoyed hanging out with. And, they saw me as a person and as a friend, and, they didn't see me as a punching bag, excuse me. So yeah, that was kind of my first experience with depression. You know, the whole like not getting out of bed, you know, the the suicidal thoughts start creeping in, and like that's I'm of the opinion that no person should ever feel like that, much less a child. But you know, it's what happened. And then you know, middle school, high school, you know, life was pretty good. Um, you know, I was very blessed. I had a decent childhood. You know, I never went hungry, you know, we always had a roof over our head. Um, so yeah, I'm very thankful. And then in high school, like my my high school experience is so weird because it was really good until it wasn't. And in grade 12, um, a couple of things happened at the same time. I was really busy. I was just I had a foot in a bunch of different things. Like I was playing sports. I had school. I was my university applications. We were in kind of that stage of life. There was an election that year, and I was volunteering on a campaign, and I was, you know, working long hours. Um, and so I was just feeling kind of just, you know, your typical burnout, right? I was very busy. I wasn't sleeping a lot, and that started to weigh on me a little bit. And then in grade 12, I took a calculus class, and because math was my favorite subject, I was really good at math. So I took like an AP calculus. And I wanted to do similar things in university. So I took this class, and it was the first time in my academic life that I and I'm gonna sound like such an asshole for saying this, but it was the first time I experienced failure as a student. It was the first time I really struggled with a subject, which, you know, is fine. Like I wasn't expecting to always know everything all the time, but what made it worse is because it was an AP class. And again, I'm going to talk about a teacher. Which before I do, I just want to point out, you know, the importance of good educators. And you know, I've had some amazing teachers who have had a very profound impact on my life. You know, if Miss Victor or Mr. Lesaway is listening to this podcast, uh, I owe you my undying gratitude for being amazing in everything that you do. Anyways, getting back to the story. So my teacher in this calculus class, again, it was an AP class. So, but you know, she kind of expected, because it was an AP class, oh, all these kids are smart. Well, they should have no problems. And there was kind of a disconnect when, you know, I started struggling, and I felt like I wasn't really getting any help at all. And this just kind of spiraled into, you know, falling behind in the class. And it's like every day there was a little more stress in my life. And yeah, it snowballed into, you know, waking up and just wanting to do anything other than get out of bed in the morning. And yeah, round 2 was bad. Um Sorry.
So the school made you miserable. Like the fact.
Yeah. And I had like, you know, when I was a kid, I always joked like, school's so boring, blah blah blah. But you know, my first 3 years in high school, I really liked school.
Were you just naturally smart? Or did you put in a lot of effort?
I think like I had a pretty easy time with school, kind of throughout my childhood. You know, it's the again, it was the first time I really struggled with anything, and I just wasn't, I didn't know how to handle it. because like, you know, I don't want to get too into, critiquing modern education, but, I feel, at least in my experience, I I don't think students experience failure enough. I didn't. It was kind of, oh, well, I just, I check the boxes every year, so let's, move them on up to the next grade. And, I was never really challenged. And then when I was challenged, I was really challenged. And again, I didn't know how to handle it.
Well, it came easy for you.
Yeah.
And I also know many people where school was just difficult, and math 20-2 was difficult.
Yeah.
And I think maybe the school system is not there. I guess it would be the problem, but it's facing failure and how do you deal with it? Because there seems to be a misconception of failure being this horrible feeling, this horrible experience that we're all trying to run away from, because it's never really taught.
I'm so excited because I get to drop a Star Wars quote on your podcast, which is kind of my
right now.
Yeah, it's coming. Just wait for it.
Well, failure is formative, and we don't, to instill that into someone. It's very difficult because when you experience failure, you are in it, and it's negative for sure. Mm-hmm. But kids fail to see that it is adding to their development, and they will flourish into a better person if they keep going in, because failure is part of the process. Because we are bombarded with social media and all these successful people that are wealthy, that are of high status,
or they claim to be wealthy,
right? But the people we look up to, and these people failed numerous times, countless times, but that's not what we see. We see them on the podium, receiving that trophy, and all these accolades that they see. People fail to bifurcate the process with the reward, because they separate that, but it's actually into one. When you see someone on that podium, you got to imagine all those early mornings, all those times they sacrificed family time, friends time to be where they are. Now, they've probably felt all sorts of negativity, like failure, doubt, shame. And a lot of them have gone through unimaginable pain and suffering, grief. And I think that's kind of where, when you experience failure firsthand in your life, it was a big shock to your system.
Yeah.
Because it was never taught to you.
So here it comes. Shout out to my boy, Master Yoda. The greatest teacher failure is. And I believe that. In my life, the greatest lessons that I've learned are because I fell short. And I think that the longer you go, and this can be an argument for people getting outside of their comfort zone. I think the longer you go without experiencing failure, the harder it's going to hit you, because it will find you. You will fail. To be human is to be imperfect and to fail.
Unless you keep running away from your problems, ultimately that would just create for a life that is devoid of meaning. And if you don't try,
would that not be the greatest failure of all?
Exactly.
So
you either suffer the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. Now, are you gonna just regret your entire life?
Oh, that went hard.
Are you gonna be on your deathbed? Not like there's no scars, no bruises, no pain, no suffering, but the pain and suffering is because of the regret.
1,000%. I couldn't agree more. But so going back to my story, I experienced some failure, and it wasn't because I was challenged. That's not why I got depressed, but it was the straw that broke the camel's back. It was kind of the nail in the coffin that, sent me into a very dark place. And I would,
How would you describe the feeling?
I would describe the feeling as if you're, do you like ice cream? Okay.
I mean, I like the taste of ice cream, but
what's something that you like really like?
I like running. I like podcasting.
You like running? Okay. You know what? Let's go with running. That's a good example. Okay. I know you really like running.
I love running.
You like running so much to the point where some people, me would say, well, you're kind of crazy with the running.
Yeah, dude, I get that a lot.
No.
Yeah.
So so imagine one day you wake up and you don't like running anymore.
I can't imagine.
You wake up and the last thing you want to do is run. This thing, and you still remember all of the great feelings this thing has brought you, but you don't get it, and it's for everything. It's not just for running. It's everything that you enjoy in life.
Talking to my family, talking to my friends.
And it's not like you running, ew, gross, get that away from me. That's not it. You don't really care.
Is it so when I'm in the act of running, because I enjoy running, I just thinking about it gives me a hard on. Okay. So,
welcome to Long Term After Dark.
Okay, so when I'm running, I don't feel the joy because I've been in dark places, and I'd say I was depressed, but it was only because my life sucked at that moment.
Yeah,
it was only because it was situational. And I know it's the explanation that I've heard countless times is true depression is when everything's fine. I guess there are like minute details, but like it's at that straw that breaks the camel's back, where you can deal with that, but then everything, all the happiness gets sucked out of you, even though you can usually get over this thing. It's just you can't for some reason, and when you try to enjoy certain things that you already enjoy, it doesn't work. Does that resonate?
And in my situation, like you could say that about me. I had lots of things. This was very different than my first experience with depression, because I had a very strong family who loved me. I had great friends who, brought me a lot of joy. I was, I was doing a lot of things that I enjoyed. I was doing well in school until I wasn't. I like just, and I was 17. Like that's such, like I look back at 17 and like, wow, what a great age to be. Like it was almost the perfect blend of, I was starting to get some freedom without any of the responsibilities. Like I loved being 17. But yeah, so I had all these, like from an outside perspective, you could look at my life and you could say, wow, he's got a pretty good life. And you'd be very right. But yeah, despite all that, I went about a period of a year, and it's an estimate because you never really know, the day when your depression starts. Like there's a day I got diagnosed, but it started before that, and went, because it's a gradual thing, right? You're not depressed one day and then depressed the next. So yeah, it just like it kind of spiraled into this thing, and yeah, it okay, so I'm gonna share one story. So and it's the day that things kind of started to turn around, was when, So this was like a few months in. And in terms of timeline, we're talking like early 2020, like January, February. So, COVID's coming like right around the corner, but we got to deal with this first. So there was one day where my mom was like, and my mom was very much like, she was great. She was incredibly empathetic and, always trying to do right by me. She was not equipped at all to deal with a kid with depression. She was not, trained. She didn't have any of the answers, but like, fuck, she tried her best, and I will be forever grateful. But because naturally my grades started to slip. I was missing a lot of school. Like because I was 17. I had a car at this point. I was driving myself to school, and it got to the point where I would wake up in the morning and I would say, all right, okay, you're going to go to school today. You're going to go to class. I would drive to school. I would park in the parking lot. You remember the ABJ parking lot, right?
I do.
You know what I'm talking about. And I would be physically unable to leave my car to enter the building. I was so anxious about, like, man, like, I don't even know what. I couldn't go to school. Like, I could not go to the building, which what I thought at the time was the source of all my issues. So, you miss a lot of class, your grades start to slip, you fall behind. And so, my mom was like, listen, like, kid, you gotta go to class. Like, we gotta try to push through this. And there was one morning, like, this was the worst day of my life. And I don't think I'm ever going to get close to this. All I remember is being in the bathroom, and just being so overwhelmed by, this cloud that has been over my head for, at this point, like, 6-7 months. And just, every day being like, God, I want to be happy. Why can't I be happy? I just for a little bit, just like, give me like, God, give me 10 minutes of being happy, please. And I was so overwhelmed. I was laying on the bathroom floor. I was just writhing. I couldn't get up. And it was like, I didn't take anything. Like, nothing physically had happened to me. My brain was just so messed up at this point that, like, I was beginning to lose function. And like, oh, fuck. Like, for my mom to walk in and see that, it just horrible. Like, to see her kid like that, it was at this point that she realized, okay, we need some medical intervention here. So that day she drove me to the hospital, and I got in, and, I spoke to a psychiatrist, and it was a very long road to recovery, but that's where it started. And yeah, that's my experience with depression. It's something that I try to be very open about.
Thank you.
Yeah, I've always made it a point to be open about this stuff because, like, listen, I'm a university student. A lot of people that I interact with are going through or have gone through similar crises, and I just want, if you could take one thing away from this episode, I would just say, listen, if you're going through stuff, you would be surprised how many people get it. Like, I'm sitting here telling you this story, and I get the feeling that, you weren't there. We didn't really know each other. But you understand.
I get it.
Yeah.
I mean, I can empathize. And what a lot of people are scared about when they are vulnerable is people will run away from them. But what ends up happening is people actually become closer to you. People actually understand you better, and you have better connections with people because you take off the boundary. You take not boundaries, but the barriers,
Right.
that everybody puts up in front of them because they're so scared of letting people in because they can use that against you. But in reality, when you see people for who they truly are, when people open up about their depression, about their anxiety, about their rock bottom moments, you realize that, oh, it's not just me who's messed up. It's not just me who has this dysfunctional life with all my maladaptive behaviors. You had gone through bullying, even the teachers joined in. And I'm sorry you had to go through that. And I don't know what that's like. And there are kids going through that right now. And there are kids that have gone through it in the past, and the kids that will go through it in the future. And you got through it, and you found a baseball team, and you improved your confidence in that, and life was good. You kept going. You didn't stop. Sure, you were at that point where these kids were atrocious to you, the teacher, and you'll never forget it. But at the same time, you didn't give up. You still kept going. And when the time came, when the second bout came, you didn't let that define you. And it's great that your mom was there to be able to hold you and provide you the help that you needed. And now you do the same for others because you know what it's truly like when you're in those moments. And see, if I try hard enough and I truly think about those deep moments, because for me, I had this chronic pain issue with my ear. Like I was working actually at the rental shop at the ATS, and
shout out ATS traffic.
I developed this chronic pain from just the constant banging of the hammer and like the constant beeping in the forklift. And at the same time, I wasn't going to school. And at the same time, I was really insecure, and I was confident up front. Like I was hitting the gym a bunch. I was surrounded by people who didn't want the best for me. We just wanted to party.
Right.
I guess they did want the best for me in the party scene.
Yeah.
But in the down times, they weren't really there. And so I know what that's like. And certainly I was never admitted. I've never been officially diagnosed, but I do remember coming home many times throughout the week and just being crushed by this existence. And it's crippling. It's when you're at that point where you're devoid of meaning and you look in the mirror and you go, I was fine at one point. Now look at me. Am I just slowly degrading? And you think of irrational ways of getting out of this. Okay, maybe if I do this, it will all end. But then your parents are there. What about my loved ones? And that's the only thought that you can think of. But then you think of the times of good in your future and your career and worthy life and the religion aspect. You become spiritual. And certainly it's great to know that you're not the only one, right? And having that authenticity, the vulnerability is certainly a great tool that I've been utilizing as well. While there are going to be those people that aren't receptive to that. Maybe they don't like it. Maybe they'll judge you for it actually. But it's so worth it.
Judge away.
Yeah. It's so worth it for the people that actually feel sane. Because I'm sure this isn't the first time you told your story to people, because it seems like now you know now just how fucked up this world is. The people are firsthand.
Yeah.
Because I'm the same way. As soon as I catered my conversation, sure, we can talk about sports. We can talk about a movie we both like, music. But I always try to cater my conversation sometimes to like when people ask how I am, I didn't get enough sleep. I'm exhausted. I'm tired. I feel miserable today. But
Wow, fucking
yeah,
just say you're good, asshole. Like,
exactly. That's what a lot of people do.
yeah.
But I just, I just try to be honest.
No, that's
Yeah.
refreshing. I
Yeah.
wish more people like
Yeah.
I had I have an aunt who yeah, you know, when someone asks you how you are, tell them. You know, don't just, oh, I'm fine. What? Yeah, like, and if they ask you a question and you give them an answer and they get mad at you for it, well, fuck them.
The truth. Prioritizing the truth is so hard.
Yeah,
Because so many people lie these days. So many. We lie to others, but more often we lie to ourselves. Yeah. But thank you for sharing your story.
of
man.
course. Listen, if one person, you know, hears what I went through and, you know, kind of like we talked about in the first half, you know, just the ability to not quit. And if I can help one person not quit, then everything that and I truly believe this, everything that I've gone through will be 1000% worth it.
There's this Jordan Peterson quote. I know it's political, but I like him for his psychology.
Sorry.
But he says that you can always put it off. Like for people that want to end their lives, you can always put it off for the next day.
Wow, that's like no, that's actually kind of poignant. Like, you can just do it tomorrow.
No, exactly. Do it tomorrow. Don't do it tonight. Do it tomorrow. And that's like the only thing that seems to like make sense to me. Like for like if I were to talk to someone out, just do it tomorrow. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's go home right now.
Let's
do it tomorrow.
Let's go watch a movie tonight, and then you can do it tomorrow.
Yeah, do it tomorrow. Yeah.
Hey, listen, I like to kind of tie it back into our earlier discussion. So when I was in the hospital and the psychiatrist that I saw, I wish I kept it. I got rid of it as like a cathartic, like, I'm done with mental illness, but I wish I would have kept it. We had a worksheet, and it was basically I referred to it as the break glass in a case of emergency plan. And it's okay, if things get really bad, i.e., you wake up one morning and you want to kill yourself, just as an example, all right, let's have a plan, So it's stuff like, okay, where's one place in the world where you always feel safe? And for me, I put in my bed. I was like, all right, listen, if those like really dark thoughts start coming back, if you're in your bed, you feel safe. All right. And then it was other stuff like, okay, what's something that, even if it doesn't bring you joy, it makes you smile. And, just little things like that. And so part of the reason I have such a deep connection, in particular with the Edmonton Oilers, is the Edmonton Oilers saved my life. Like, true story. In 2020, at the end of the season, before COVID happened, the Oilers went on this like crazy run to make the playoffs. Like they were out of it, and they started winning a bunch of games, and then now they're in the playoff race, and it coincided perfectly with, kind of going from rock bottom to on the way up. And that watching Oilers games during that run was the first time I could remember where I felt, genuine joy. So it speaks to the power that, like I get it. Sports aren't for everyone, and some people look at me and they say, like, why? I don't get it. I don't get, like, sure, you can like sports, but why are you so freaking passionate about it? Like, that's why.
That
It
flip.
saved my life. Like, I don't want to, go down the road of, oh, well, if they didn't win those games, would I still be here? But like, it was part of the healing process for me was, it was just a nice distraction.
Dude, that's awesome. Often I'll stumble upon a comment on a random YouTube section that has nothing to do with mental health. You ever heard of Tyler One?
No, I can't say I have.
He's like a gamer. He's
Okay.
like, he acts really autistic.
Sure.
Funny. Like, I love him. He's just amazing.
Yeah.
Just goofy guy. And he doesn't really go deep or anything. And sure, maybe he does at points, but try to be funny. Then I'll just stumble upon a comment where, hey man, your videos really helped me. I'm going through a rough time.
Totally.
Saved my life. And that's happened in so many videos and comments that I've seen. And I'll actually extend that to basic human interaction, where you ask someone, how are you? Maybe you just saved their life. Yeah.
No, those little things, we don't realize just how much power they have. Just like you said, just smiling at someone. Like, okay, here's another one. Like, we're both men, right? Men today are so like, don't get complimented.
No,
like-
I love the bromance, bro. Like I said, you look good, man. And I might just, take you to dinner
I appreciate
tonight.
it.
And
I appreciate it,
get
but
a
I am
hotel
trying to
for us.
make a point here.
okay.
But like, so many, and not just men, but like men in particular, you compliment the shirt that they're wearing. Like, I know so many guys, and I'm one of these guys that'll think about that compliment for weeks and how good it made them feel. Like, just, yeah, these little, like, and okay, when people talk about, mental illness in particular, they, you hear the phrase dark place a lot. And I think that's a really good metaphor because if you're someone who knows someone who is dealing with mental illness, I really like the phrase dark place because it kind of accurately describes, okay, if you're in a dark place, you're not going to be able to see very well. Am I correct in that assessment? It's going to be hard to see. When you're in a dark place, figuratively, depression, bipolar, extreme anxiety, whatever it is. People, okay, in my story, I had lots of friends who reached out. Lots of people in my life who wanted to be there for me. But I couldn't see it. Like, I was in such a dark place that I couldn't, people are checking in on me, and it doesn't even register in my brain that, wow, this is a person that cares about my well-being. Well, again, my mom is the hero of this story. And the reason for that is because she was a pain in my ass about being there for me. Like, she was there for me so much that, like, some people might consider it annoying how much she was there for me. So, but then it got to the point where I saw just how much she cared and how much she wanted me to get better. And that was a lot of the reason where things started to turn around a little bit. So my point is, like, the little things are very powerful, but, people suffering with anything can have a hard time just recognizing that, wow, there's this person that, really, really cares about me. So again, if you're someone who knows someone who's dealing with a mental illness, be a pain in the ass. Like, just hammering home. Always be there. And they might try to send you away. Just just be there. And when I say be there, you have to be there. And there and there and there.
You have to knock on their door. They don't open. You might have to get an axe.
You
Axe
gotta
it
break the
down.
damn thing down. Like, and it might be exactly what they need.
Yeah. You have to really show them. You can send them 100 texts of you care. And because when you know something's up and they're surrounded by darkness, they can't see anything. You have to remind them of what's in front of them, their family, their friends, their talents, their passions, all the beauties in life. When somebody's such in immense pain, all they can think about is the negativity, and you have to help them shine and be able to magnify at the positive things in life. So how do you, like, what strategies or coping mechanisms did you find most helpful during your recovery?
I can talk about the coping mechanisms that I found unhelpful.
Sure.
Because there was a lot of those. I ate a lot. I put on a ton of weight. I was eating 5 meals a day. Like, I probably cracked 10,000 calories in a day a bunch of times. And I wasn't, like, I was depressed. I was in bed all the time. I wasn't moving. So it was a lot of energy in and not a lot of energy out. But like, my coping strategies that work are very individual. They won't work for everyone. But humor was a big one. I found after depression, I got funnier. I don't know. Maybe it's just the fact that I am so much more appreciative of the gift of life that I laugh at more things. But like, I joke about, dark things, depression, suicide. And I think it just helps me, I guess, lessen the hold that these things had on my life. Because I in my head, I just reduce it to, something to joke about. Again, that's not, I can totally appreciate if someone's like, maybe we shouldn't be joking about this stuff. Like, I get that sentiment. Yeah. Coping mechanisms. I don't know. I think the only, coping mechanism that really works is actually healing and putting in the work to do that. It doesn't just happen.
Yeah. Connections.
Yeah.
And never ceasing to just give up. Like, just putting in the work every single day in hopes of a better outcome, better future. And you had said humor is a way to lighten the burden. Because I'm reading this book right now. It's called A Man's Search for Meaning. And then it's all these people. It's a very dark book. It's like the Holocaust. And it's this guy who was in it. Like, just all of his belongings were taken from him. All his family members were just separated from him. And the thing that they all did continuously after their heads were shaved, after they've been dehumanized by the Nazis, laugh about it. That's all they could have done. And there's this quote, like, everything can be taken from a person, but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, the ability to choose one's attitude, to choose one's way. Your attitude towards certain things, no matter how dark you feel, can really dictate how you will end
There's
up.
I'm not gonna remember it. There's a Mark Twain quote that's along the same lines, and I have it posted in my bedroom. It's something along the lines of like, against the relentless assault of laughter, nothing can stand. And I do feel that way. I feel like humor is one of those things that, you know, it's so great about being a member of this species. Like,
It's beautiful.
listen, I'm not a scientist. Someone might totally fact check me on this one, but I don't know of any other organisms that, you know, have comedy and humor. Again, that might be totally wrong.
I know some chimps laugh, but they're not as creative. Like they
Yeah,
can be
like,
surprised.
I don't. Are there any chimps as funny as Norm Macdonald? I don't think so. Rest in peace, Norm.
Yeah, that guy was really funny.
Oh yeah, he was one of the best.
How has your experience with depression shaped your perspective on life and mental health?
I think the big thing is, you know, I was so close to just ending it. Where now it's like I'm so appreciative of just being alive. It's like, you know, kind of no matter what comes my way, it's like, this sucks, but you know what doesn't suck? Being alive. Like I've never appreciated life as much as I do now. So yeah, that's the big thing. The thing that I'm starting to learn about trauma in general, and it's not just, you know, the mental health stuff. I've always thought growing up that trauma is something that, you know, eventually you'll get over, but I think I had a very flawed understanding of what that meant. I think these traumatic things that happen are always, at least for me, they're always going to be a part of who I am and kind of how I got here. And the, you know, the pain that I felt, I don't think I'm ever going to unfeel. But at the same time, now I focus so much more on, you know, the lessons I've learned. And like I said, like now I'm focusing on, you know, life and all of the wonderful things I have in my life and how blessed I am. And, you know, carrying the trauma with me, but also, you know, celebrating, is that the word I want to use? Like
Gratitude.
Yeah, and celebrating who I am as a person.
You accept the good and the bad.
Yeah.
You went through this thing that ultimately defined who you are today. Had that not existed, you wouldn't be who you are today. You wouldn't be as appreciative of the things that are in front of you. You wouldn't decipher who the real ones are. You wouldn't discover just to what extent your mother had compassion for you.
Mm-hmm.
And you would have never realized all the friends that did reach out, all the family members that do care, and you would have never realized vulnerability had you not gone through this. And for many people, they go through a bad thing. And I'm sure if I asked you the same thing, if you could go back and make that not happen, would you?
I knew you were gonna ask that. I don't think I don't think I would.
Yeah, it wouldn't be
change any
you.
of
Because
it.
if you did, you wouldn't be you right now. You wouldn't.
And I would say I'm quite fond of me.
Yeah, that's awesome. If you didn't go through that, you wouldn't be Ethan, right?
No, I'd be some other schmuck.
Yeah, exactly.
Fuck that guy.
Exactly. This is our reality.
Yeah.
And if you keep going to the past obsessing over it, repeating over and over. If that didn't happen, this X wouldn't happen, and Y wouldn't happen. Then what? Like, you can't go back. You have to accept it, and you have to add in a narrative, because if that didn't happen, if you were to go back in time and change it, you would have done that for every single interaction, and that wouldn't be life. And if everybody did that, would that be life? No. You just want everything to be perfect. And if everything was perfect, then what's the point? If there was no disease, if there's no death, we were all kumbaya and we were all like running around in happiness, bliss all the time, then what's sadness? If there was no sadness, then what's happiness? Does that make sense?
No,
then what's the point of it all?
Yeah.
Then we just be living forever? Then what? What's the point? There'd be no point.
Yeah.
We accept the good and the bad. We let that define us. We experience the joy, and we get to realize just how beautiful everything comes together. All the pieces, the clouds, the sunsets, those shared laughters, the sleep after a good night's sleep. I haven't been sleeping well, but when I do, it's fucking amazing. When I have a good meal, when I don't have a good meal, the next time I do, it's bliss. When you don't have a good hockey game, when your team loses, then when your team wins. But what if your team won all the time?
I mean, I'd like them to win a Stanley Cup once.
Okay, exactly, right? But let's say they just breeze through every single game.
Bit of a sensitive subject at the moment.
Like, imagine, okay, but I guess that's like a little bit of, it's just impossible to win the Stanley Cup every single time. You know, and if they did, then they'd like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if they did every single time, like, they'd probably just be drug tested. Like, how are they winning? They have to be cheating or something. Like, but yeah, I think
so. You touched on this earlier about mindset and perspective, and yeah, it's you can look at it one of two ways. It's, look at what has become of you, look at all these terrible things that have happened to you, or you can look at it as, hey, look what I've risen above.
Rose from the ashes.
And I think that is kind of, I think it's the biggest change in my mindset is, it's not going to get as bad as it was. Like, I can't imagine it. Like, it was bad. And if it does get that bad, well, I fuck, been there, done that. Like,
I've been through worse.
What else you got for me, Earth?
Life. Yeah, throw everything you've got.
Yeah, what you got? Yeah. Now, listen, if the universe is listening to this podcast, please, God, stop giving me your toughest battles.
Yeah, I've always wondered, what if our support systems weren't there? We didn't have the parents that were there for us, the friends, the people that have genuine conversations.
Well, I've always wondered what would happen if it started raining pink elephants from the sky.
Yeah.
I had a point. I don't know what it was. Hypotheticals. And anyways, go on.
Yeah, hypotheticals. But I guess it goes back into where you could go back in the past. If you could change certain things, it'd be that type of question. But if these pillars of support didn't exist, life would be so different. Because
my life would be over. Like, listen. Every good thing that's happened in my life, I can immediately, trace it back to the people that made it possible, which, for a lot of it is like, I had something to do with it, but, it wouldn't happen without, family and friends and mentors and, teachers. And so, yeah, like, okay, I'll give you an example. So, I might have mentioned. So I was an only child. I grew up with a single mother, who, when I was little, was pursuing her education. She was pursuing a master's degree and then eventually a doctorate. And so she was very busy. She didn't have time to, raise a kid by herself. So, it takes a village, right? It was my grandparents looked after me. I spent a lot of time in my early years with them, and aunts and uncles who would babysit me and do all these things with me. And I have so many great memories, so many great experiences. And then, when I get older and, start kind of figuring out who I am as a person, instead of just, someone who wants to, drink root beer and, play NHL all day. Like, I start to decide, who I want to be and what I value. Then it's, it's teachers. It's, it's mentors, and, it's the people that I ref with, teammates that I play sports with, coaches. It's all these people. And so everything that I've been able to do, it's lessons that I've learned from these people in my life.
We cannot go through this life alone. A person that says they're a self-made millionaire is a complete liar, because throughout every step of the way, there was the janitor, there was the waitress who served your food, the chef, the person that made the food that is on your stove, that ultimately goes on your table. Who made that table? Who made that house? Who fed you? Who breastfed you when you were a little boy? Who made that movie that gave you that perspective, that book? All by people. So when people say they're self-made, they're complete liars. Because everything that we accomplish, everything that we do, everything that we're thinking of, language itself, somebody created for humanity. I mean,
wow. Yeah. No, I've never thought of it like that, but you're so right.
This entire room right here, the mic, somebody created this. Maybe for revenue incentive, maybe to make money, maybe to feed their family, maybe they just
had to print the money.
Yeah, no, exactly. That too. Somebody had to print the money, the headphones, the everything, the sidewalk, the cars that we drive, the food, literally everything, the mattress that you sleep on, the water that you drink. The government plays into it. There are teachers, there's professors, the friends that you make have parents that instilled in them good values to which they can support you of. Right now, we're talking because we had a good support system ultimately brought us together, because now we have the same values. It's like everything connects, everything. That's why I'm a firm believer of like every single action that you take, whether it be like the tiniest thing, has a consequence. And who were some of the key people in your support system during your battle with depression, and how did they help you? And I know you had already mentioned your mom, but can you elaborate more?
Yeah. So again, like, I think it starts and ends with my mom. Without her and everything that she did for me, and not just, when times were really bad, when times were good, she was and is, she's the first person I call with good news. And, I think it's important not only in the bad times, but in the good times. I think when you have success, it brings me so much more joy when I get to share it with people. So, Mom, I hope you're listening. I love you. Keep doing what you're doing.
A shared joy is double the joy. A shared sorrow is half a sorrow.
Damn, you are just on fire today. Just dropping banger after
no,
banger.
I read a lot of this stuff. I listen to a lot of podcasts. So
Listen, man, I'm trying to pump your tires over here. Just take the compliment.
Thank you so much, bro. Thank you.
But okay, so my mom is a perfect example of, you know, someone that you can lean on. There were people in my life that I thought I thought they were those people. But you know, I've learned quite recently actually that, you know, you have relationships in your life where you call that person like your best friend or someone who's very close to you. And then when you actually, you know, you take a bird's eye view and you kind of examine your relationship, and it's like, wow, no, this person is just doing the bare fucking minimum. And, you know, when times were good, you know, they were there. But when times were bad, again, we talked about dark place. I can't see anything. So if someone dips out on me, you know, I'm not even it's not gonna register in my brain. So, you know, there were people who I was very close with, and then when things got bad, you know, they didn't check in on me. You know, they didn't see how I was doing. And it wasn't until I recovered and I was back at school and I was back living my life when they showed up again. And it's almost like, you know, that year of like, wow, I'm in such a terrible place, you know, and it's almost like that year never had, like you just skipped it. And like I was ignorant to that fact. And then it was only years later where I was like, holy shit, no, they just disappeared on me. And it's like, listen, I was not easy to deal with. Like I was quite a burden. Like and not because, you know, I'm worth, you know, nothing. No, it was like dealing with mental illness is hard. It's hard on you, and it's especially hard on the people around you. And I've been in other relationships where, okay, I had my thing and I got better, and now there's this person that I really care about. They haven't got better, and you start to feel a bit of a survivor's remorse, and it's like, oh my God, like how do I help you? And it started to weigh on me. So I'm completely cognizant of the fact that, yeah, being friends with someone with depression is fucking hard. But, you know, if we were as good of friends as I thought we were, you know, you wouldn't have thought twice about it.
The bare minimum to a friendship is being able to celebrate with them on your achievements and being able to despair during the failures. That's the bare minimum. And checking in on them, that's the bare minimum. There's many friends, many people that will only want to be around you in the good times, when you're happy, when you just graduated, when you're on top, when you seem to be in your flow state where you're unstoppable. But as soon as that stops and you hit a bump on the road and you fall off a cliff, are they there to help to reach you down? Now that's like the biggest thing I've learned too. When I don't drink anymore, I don't smoke, I don't vape, and that's
good on you.
Thank you. There's a lot of people that just stopped becoming friends with because they were only there for the times of debauchery. They were only there for times of just numbing ourselves out with no true connection. And as soon as my family life got tough and my mental health wasn't doing to the best of its capacity, where were they? And the true ones that did stay, I'll never forget them. Never. right? And that's just kind of, I'm glad it happened too, because that's a big screening
Totally.
test.
You want to know who your friends are? Have mental illness. I'm kidding. Don't take advice from me.
Go through a catastrophe.
Seriously, you need like some kind of disclaimer in the description. Like anything I say is, I am not a licensed medical professional. My advice, grain of salt. But like,
I'd take advice from you.
Oh, dude.
I would, bro.
You're so kind, man. Thank you.
But man,
sorry,
I'd say
I wanted to say that, you asked about people that were there to support me, and I did kind of put a negative spin on it, but that's only to emphasize just how important, people like my mom are, and, all the friends that I have in my life now, shout out Brad and Bill if you guys are listening. These people are, I don't know what the technical term is, real ones.
The real ones, bro. That's pretty technical.
Yeah, sure.
Real recognizes real, right?
Yeah, game recognized game.
Yeah,
absolutely.
How did your involvement with Hockey Alberta and your love for sports contribute to your support network?
So, okay, a little pitch, if anyone wants to be a ref. Again, there's, every night you really are the third team on the ice. Like I feel the same way about the guys that I ref with, that I did about, teammates when I played sports. It's like that bond that you form, it's very hard to replicate. Just one, the amount of time you spend together. Like we're reffing over 100 games a season. That's a lot of late nights at the rink, and we work in crews of 4. Like it's, when you're in a small group like that, there's no room for cliques. Like there's just 4 of you out there. You're not gonna hide from the rest of the group. So it's a very good thing. I like all of the guys that I ref with. And the other part of it is, there's the trauma bonding. There's like we go through some wild shit together.
Bro, guess what this adult just said to me? This grown man.
Oh, totally.
Kids.
No, and my favorite time as a ref, it's like I love being on the ice. That I love that part of it, but just like a little bit, I get a little bit more enjoyment out of being in the ref room after the game, after we just refed a good game and we feel good about it, and we're taking our gear off and we're just unwinding and we're trading war stories back and forth. Oh yeah, remember when this guy said this, and oh well, that's not, this happened to me, and then we also have a really good mix of like, guys my age, some guys a little bit younger than me, and then we have like, older guys who have, gone to the places that we want to get to, and now they're back reffing with us more locally, kind of giving back, being mentors for the younger guys, and they're sharing stories of like, back in 96, this guy, like,
buddy's been reffing that long.
Oh, totally. Like there's
that's awesome.
Yeah, but like, one time this guy told me a story, where they had to get a police escort out of the building because the coach tried to break into the ref room with a fire axe through the door. And like, yeah, it's I shouldn't be so, lighthearted telling this story, but it's like,
bro, talk about just love for sports. Hey, he was
no, that's a guy that's passionate.
He's willing to really kill people.
Yeah. No, but it's like, because, it happened like fucking 20, 30 years ago, whatever. And it's like, wow. Like, and we just laugh at how, and again, that's part of the being desensitized to it. Like, yeah, but like just, sharing those stories and man, like, and anyone who's on who's played team sports will know, like, just in that dressing room, like you feel like part of a whole, and it's an incredible feeling.
It's awesome.
Yeah,
you become part of this community. It's not just reffing. It's the friendships that you develop. It's the stories of how this person mistreated you. Oh, and then another person comes up with another story that's just as discombobulating. It's just so hard to grasp as to how this other person was, or this person, player, person watching was capable of doing this act, and everybody just erupts in laughter, and you just have constant stories like those.
Well, and sorry, I just want to jump in. They're not all bad stories.
Okay, they're not all bad.
They're not all like, oh, this guy said heinous thing. Like, some of them were like, oh, something funny happened in my game. Like,
of course. But of course, you're going to talk about the technical stuff. You're going to talk about like, hey, I really did a good play on this. But it seems like the real funny stories are when somebody loses their shit.
Oh,
right?
totally.
That's always it. Like it's so, like, you guys are passionate about the reffing, the being a sports official, but the stories that come to mind that are worth sharing, that aren't just the part of every day, because I'm sure you guys enjoy that and you know what the process is like. But when somebody charges through the referee locker room with an axe or tries to get in, you guys have to call the cops. This just one in a million. You know?
No, that's insane.
No, like, this guy should be locked up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just like, listen, we can have a whole nother podcast episode about, like,
oh, I want to hear the stories.
Just the stories and like how we can, change hockey culture.
Bro, you should prep me like 10 stories about the most like fucked up thing, like, collectively from all your buddies.
The top 10 fucked up stories I've heard from my buddies about, the times that people tried to kill them.
That would be good. I'd just die laughing. I definitely want to have an episode like that. Yeah, this won't be the last podcast, that's for sure. What role did community and social connections play in your recovery process? And I'm sure that ties in with the family, your friends, and the
again,
reffing.
Like, I would not be here without, and I could do another, 4-hour podcast episode just thanking people, who have been there for me, again, in good times and bad. Just, yeah, like, I am someone who thrives on social interaction. I get energy from it. I love conversation might be my favorite thing to do. Like, I really enjoy it. It's a lot of fun for me. So yeah, like, listen, when I was at my low, generally I'm a person who, when I'm in crisis, I tend to close myself off. I isolate. I try to shut the world out. And so when people, like, I put myself in a situation where people need to reach out to me. I don't do it intentionally, but when I see, people reaching out and checking in and seeing how I'm doing, and, people making that effort to just be in my life, it's incredible. It, like, and now, that, my brain is fully functioning again. Like, I got a lot of joy from it. And so, yeah. And everyone from, my mom, my whole family, just, yeah, every time, they reached out and just, like, and it doesn't have to be like, this deep conversation of, so what's making you so depressed? Why do you feel so bad? It's just like, hey, how did today go?
A simple how are you goes a long way.
How are you today? And like, I don't think people understand just how much it meant to me. And I don't even think I could express it in words. I don't.
I resonate with that, and what I've been trying to focus on as of lately is a lot of people aren't good with their words, because you can try to align your speech with your thoughts as best as possible. Sometimes it's still not as accurate. Maybe you could get to the 99.999% of conveying how you feel. Like, I could tell you I'm sad. Maybe that's not quite the most accurate word. I could tell you I feel melancholic. I feel miserable. I feel like the weight of the world is crushing me. Maybe that's more specific. But even then, I could try my best to be specific as possible. But the only way you could actually perceive what I'm feeling, for you to understand 100% what I'm going through, is if you become me, which is impossible. So the way I see it is I try to convey and present myself as welcoming as possible. So in the eyes, in the, like, just the persona when I walk, and like just the little smile like that. And I'm surprised to see just how warm people become and how beautiful people are in my lens, because it gives them a sign that, hey, this person's okay.
Yeah.
And I can be around this person. And as you said, it doesn't have to be this big trauma talk. It could just be that warm interaction. How's the kids? How's the camping trip? How's your day? How's work so far? You didn't get enough sleep last night? How come? You try this supplement? You watched the game last night? Oh man, that play was terrible. Oh, that play was great. Oh man, that concert. Did you go to that last night? What kind of music do you like? That goes a long way, and you could potentially save someone's life. And that's at the most. At the least, you brighten someone's day, and it becomes this snowball effect, to which instead of going home to their negative household, you go home, you feel a little bit more positive.
Yeah.
And the chances of them saying something nice to their spouse, to their children, to their brother, to their sister, their husband, is much more likely, because you were that person. And I'm a firm believer of, we are all in control. We dictate, we write our own chapters in our lives. We are the authors. Now, what are you going to do in the next move? Right? What are you going to make this chapter into? Are you going to become corrupt and spread hate? Or are you going to be vulnerable? Are you going to prioritize authenticity, peace, love, compassion? Sure. A lot of people say I'm cheesy. I think I'm cheesy. But it seems that every day, the answers in life are the most cheesy. Like love and compassion, right? Like smile, fake it till you make it. Keep going no matter what.
I am huge on fake it till you make it.
Yeah.
That like, I have a lot of mantras. That's one of my favorites.
Yeah. Man, do you have any last words for the listeners, watchers?
Kids, it doesn't have to be a, what are we, 3 hour, 2 hour, doesn't have to be a 2 hour podcast. It can just be a simple, how you doing?
That's awesome. And yeah, as always, to everyone watching and listening, there is a place for you in this chaotic world. Never lose hope. Keep your faith and keep it long term.
Let's go, Oilers.
Peace.